Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is January the 22nd, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Hopefully Thursday treated you well. Hopefully you had a good day. As for myself, it was a good one. We got up, we got after it, got to work. Overall work was pretty easy, pretty breezy. We did that. We went to the gym. Gym was also a good gym session. I got everything in that I wanted to get in, so I love that. The usual Smith machine, free weights, core work, and then also my filler. We came home, had our stretch, had our snack, and did some research. So, here we are, ready to get into it. Let's go ahead and do our startup, and let's get into some news. I wanted to issue an apology for the end of last episode. That stomach cramp was not pleasant, but I didn't want to cut the episode, early or, be too weird. Hopefully everything picked up okay. But yes, I am fine. I am all right. Just had one of those moments where I felt like, a xenomorph was coming out of my stomach and I kept having to bend and contort myself, to kind of get through that. But, those are the cramps sometimes. What can you say? All right, Arun. Our first story comes from The Guardian. Shinzo Abe's killer sentenced to life in prison over shooting of Japanese former prime minister. A court in Japan has sentenced the assassin of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to life in prison, a case that shocked the public and exposed politicians' ties to an influential religious group. Tetsuya Yamagami, 45, had earlier pleaded guilty to killing Abe in July of 2022 as he was making an election campaign speech in the western city of Nara. Now I want to pause right here. I did not know from looking at him, and granted, pretty much most of the photos I've seen of Yamagami have been with a face mask on, in a tussle, because they wrestled in the ground after, he shot Abe with that thingamajig. So I always kind of thought he was young, and don't get me wrong, 45 to some people would be considered young, but to find out that this guy is 10 years my senior, I was like, what the fuck? I don't know. Asian don't raise him, I guess. I don't know. But at least from the eye up and with the haircut, he just looks like a younger guy to me. I don't know. That threw me off. But Abe, Japan's longest-serving prime minister, who left a lasting influence on the country's politics, died of injuries sustained after Yamagami shot him from behind with a homemade weapon. I want to emphasize here. They use the words "lasting influence." In my opinion, that is a very nice way of describing Shinzo Abe's legacy. I'm sure there are some people who, obviously there's some people who mourned his death and all that, who are sad. But in my mind, those tend to be conservative-minded, more nationalistic-minded. I think if you look at you can Google Shinzo Abe like I did. You can go into a bit of his history, some of his statements and quotes, just about things in the past, and his opinions, his takes, and, his stances, how he led Japan. I'm not a fan personally. So yeah, I need to get that out there so you know where my biases lie. My biases, whatever. Abe wasn't the first Japanese politician to have been killed in the post-war period, but his violent death in broad daylight on a suburban street sent shockwaves through a country where gun crime is almost unheard of. I mean, when they say homemade weapon and you look at that weapon, please refresh yourself if you're not familiar or you're new to this case, this situation. The shit was crazy looking. Like it was some shit out of 3005. Man knew he had a problem and he found the solution. And he made this fucking thing and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna get him, and we're gonna get to the reasons why. If you don't remember, that's okay. I know this is another thing that I just gotta stop and say. It is crazy that this shit took place in 2022. It reminds me because I was there. No, but I remember covering this. I remember like when the story hit, and like all my feelings about it and everything. And then like time has just passed, and now we are at the phase where he is like now being sentenced. And it's like, damn, it's just crazy sometimes to like realize that I am in a way marking time through these stories, and that feels weird. But I don't know. There's just something to it. I don't know. I just wanted to mention that. Yamagami, who was wrestled to the ground by Abe's security detail moments after the shooting, pleaded guilty when his trial started in October last year. Describing the crime as unprecedented in post-war history, prosecutors had demanded a life sentence, but not the death penalty, which in Japan is usually reserved for multiple killings. Yamagami's defense team had called for a prison term of no more than 20 years. In Japan, life imprisonment leaves open the possibility of parole, although in reality, many inmates serving life die in prison, according to legal experts. Under the country's legal system, a trial continues even when a defendant pleads guilty, something I didn't know until reading this article. As controversial government's plans were made to hold a state funeral for Abe, who resigned in 2020 after a second term in office, details emerged of Yamagami's motive for targeting him. The former member of the Maritime Self-Defense Forces told investigators the killing was revenge for Abe's relationship with the Unification Church, commonly known as the Moonies, which he blamed for plunging his family into poverty. Yamagami's mother, a church follower, had bankrupted the family with donations to the organization, which was formed in South Korea in 1954 by Sun Myung Moon, a self-proclaimed messiah who preached new interpretations of the Bible and conservative values. Reports said that 2 decades ago, she had donated more than 100 million yen, or $1 million, or is that dollars? That might be Australian. They got that shit a little crooked, so I don't even know at the time, to the church's coffers. Abe, who had spoken at church-related events, was among a large number of Japanese politicians, mainly from the governing Liberal Democratic Party, which, I love a nice little play with words there, whose ties to the organization were exposed during the investigation into his death. The church, which critics describe as a cult, began exerting its influence on Japanese politics in the 1960s, forming alliances with conservatives, including Abe's grandfather and post-war Prime Minister Nobusuke Kishi, who were sympathetic to the strong anti-communist message in opposition to trade unions. Yamagami thought if he killed someone as influential as former Prime Minister Abe, he could draw public attention to the church and fuel public criticism of it. A prosecutor said earlier in the trial at Nara District Court. Yamagami said he had decided to kill Abe after seeing a video message the former leader sent to a group affiliated with the church. His aim, he said, had been to damage the church and expose its relationship with Abe. Public anger over revelations forced the party to distance itself from the organization, while the church's branch in Japan was later stripped of its tax-exempt religious status in order to dissolve. I will say, look, I'm never advocating for these kind of motions, these kind of actions, and I don't want to tell people, go do this, da-da-da. No, never that. I'm not saying that. But I will say, man, this shit happened. I was shocked as hell. Everyone was shocked as hell, obviously. Once the reasons and everything came to light and everyone's like, oh my gosh, yes. And then more stories would like come out about this, more either documentaries, I saw like podcasts, people talking about this shit more and more, going through all the sort of details of of this cult. And to see that actually have an effect to this point where you see this church getting stripped of their religious status and saying, hey, like, we don't want to keep seeing this continue and go on. We have to address this, actually address this. This can't just be some festering wound that we allow to keep happening or continue on, that, I don't know. that was at least something, right? I feel like in life, you rarely get those moments. It often feels so hollow and fleeting. But hey, I would imagine for Yamagami, that's got to be at least something, right? I don't know. His case drew, I think I skipped ahead. Some members of the public were sympathetic to Yamagami, citing the damage his mother's devotion to the church had caused his family. Yamagami was forced to give up higher education, and in 2005 attempted to take his own life before his brother died by suicide. His case drew attention to the plight of other children of the Unification Church followers in Japan, and led to the introduction of a law designed to protect people from malicious solicitations for money by religious and other groups. Thousands of people signed a petition requesting leniency for Yamagami, and others sent care packages to his relatives and the detention center where he was being housed. So there we go. In a way, we are, I guess, putting, a bit of a nail into the story, here. We're kind of closing the chapter, so to speak. But yeah, I definitely was like, yes, I want to make time. I almost wanted to do a roundup yesterday and kind of just rolled that in. And I was like, no, this story and then the story we're about to get into, I was like, no, I want to set aside time to cover this proper. It's important, so yeah, to tell the story, once again, give a recap on why the fucking shit happened in the first place. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm sorry. Tomatoes for Shinzo Abe. Yeah, I'll say it. I don't think that's a controversial fucking thing. Maybe you're booing me. Maybe you're disliking this as we speak. I don't know. Sorry about it. Rest in piss, motherfucker. And like I said, I don't feel like explaining myself on that. Some of these motherfuckers, yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan of. But anyway, we can move on. Another story. Take a quick water break, actually. From the Associated Press, former Uvalde officer acquitted in trial over police response to Robb Elementary attack. This is another update. All right. A former Uvalde schools police officer was acquitted Wednesday of charges that he failed in his duties to confront the gunman at Robb Elementary during the critical first minutes of one of the deadliest shootings in U.S. history. Jurors deliberated for more than 7 hours before finding Adrian Gonzales, 52, not guilty in the first trial over the hesitant law enforcement response to the 2022 attack, in which a teenage gunman killed 19 fourth graders and 2 teachers. Excuse me. He had been convicted. He faced, Had he been convicted, he faced up to 2 years in prison on more than 24 charges of child abandonment and endangerment. Gonzales appeared to fight back tears and hugged his lawyers after the verdict. After the verdict was read in a courtroom in Corpus Christi, hundreds of miles from Uvalde, where his legal team said a fair trial would not have been possible. He thanks the jury, but had nothing to say for the victims, which is very sad, which is very unfortunate. Actually, I will read from the statement from one of the victims. Let's see. Faith is fractured, but you never lose faith, said Jesse Rizzo, whose 9-year-old niece, Jackie Cazares, I'm sorry if I'm getting that, I'm probably fucking that up, my bad. Jackie Cazares was killed. He said he was frustrated by the verdict and hopes the state will press ahead with the trial of former Uvalde Schools Police Chief Pete Arredondo, the only other officer who had been charged over the response. Those children in the cemetery can't speak for themselves, Rizzo said. The jurors haven't spoken out yet, but they were polled by the defense lawyer, defense attorney or whatever, and they kind of came out and said, yeah, they just felt like there was gaps in the prosecution's story that just kind of didn't add up. I know I was listening to Start Here, and there was definitely a moment that, at least part of where their case kind of falls apart, is that they bring in a cop, a Uvalde police officer, at least I think so, and he was supposed to have one testimony, essentially kind of damning, Gonzales, but that's more or less not what winds up happening. And I think, given the day, given that the situation more or less is them saying, hey, it's not our fault. It was actually these other cops. I was like the lowest guy on the totem pole. So like, yeah, I might have been one of the early responders on the scene. Yes, maybe I could have done something or at least attempted to do something, but I didn't. And so many others didn't. And it just almost seems like it's a blame game. It's the Spider-Man meme. Everyone's pointing at each other and just not doing anything. But meanwhile, there was a person with a gun and they were just killing kids. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's happening, but we're scared because he's got a big gun, and we got to collect ourselves, rally ourselves. And then they finally act. They finally do something. And, and then after the fact, we say, oh, it's the doors. They didn't lock the doors at the school. We go around blaming all these other things. We talk about mental health a little bit. We don't do anything about that, of course. And then we move along. And now we are in the justice-seeking phase. And am I that surprised to see a cop just completely get off for some shit like this? Of course. I'm not surprised at all. No, this is very part of the course. And you can actually get the defense here because it's almost like they're saying, hey, dude, it's the system, not me, the individual here. You can't be mad at me. And it's like, no, you didn't go along with your training. It's like, okay, yeah, me and all these other cops. I noticed that they're not here. You're just pointing the finger at me and you're pointing the finger at the chief. But once again, not all of us. And once again, we're not going to do anything in the systems at play that got the guy the gun, the teenager the gun that was so scary for those other cops. No, we're not doing anything here. At the end of the day, this is just procedural, and that's about it. And you can also say, hey, this isn't the justice system per se. It is the jury that said, hey, this case isn't strong enough, so they said not guilty. I don't know in terms of I don't know. I'm numb to this kind of shit. It doesn't surprise me at all. I didn't expect anything out of it. And plus, let's say you do get a guilty verdict here and you send Gonzales to jail for 2 years. That's not going to bring any of these kids back. It's not going to change any of the laws at hand that can allow this to happen again the same exact fucking way. Nothing is really going to change. So what is the point? What is the rehabilitation to even be had here? The nation itself doesn't even really want to fucking learn. And that's the sad fucking part, right? That's what we kind of keep coming back to. It's the same fucking wall. So I don't know. I mean, we could kind of run through more of the details here. I know I'm just kind of giving it to you Isaiah's way here, but we're going to go ahead and move on. The rest of this is ice related. I wish we were just talking weather because unfortunately we do have a bit of a snow front coming, a bit of a bad weather front, I guess, all over America. And it's very vague, right? It's it could be anywhere from 3 to 23 inches. I'm just kind of bullshitting the numbers there, but it's that kind of range. We just don't know. It depends on where you're at. I know for some people it's supposed to start Friday. I think for here in Ohio where I live, it's supposed to be Saturday morning, Sunday night is really supposed to hit. So I'll keep you posted, do a little bit of weatherman stuff. But no. We're talking fucking customs enforcement. So that's fun. Immigration and customs enforcement. Yeah. The old shitty ice. And I'm not talking about black ice. Anyway, I need a water break because this is another reader. We gotta talk legal shit. All right, from NBC News. ICE says its officers can let me run that back. ICE says its officers can forcibly enter homes during immigration operations without judicial warrants. 2025 memo. An internal immigration and customs enforcement document in May shows that ICE told officers and agents they can forcibly enter homes of people subject to deportation without warrants signed by judges. The memo, dated May 12th, which reads that it is from ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons, was shared with Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, by 2 whistleblowers. It says ICE agents are allowed to forcibly enter a person's home using an administrative warrant if a judge has issued a final order of removal. Administrative warrants permit officers and agents to make arrests and are different from judicial warrants, which judges or magistrates sign allowing entry into homes. So essentially, you only have half of what you need here, and essentially what ICE is putting out amongst themselves is saying, hey, that's the only half that you need, buddy. We're good. We can conduct business now. Just do the fucking raid. Like, just do the operation. Go ahead and bust down that door. Lyons notes in the document that detaining people in their residencies based solely on administrative warrants is a change from past procedures because, you're moving from something that was in the realm of legality, is legal, to something that is not. Although the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has not historically relied on administrative warrants alone to arrest aliens subject to final orders of removal in their place of residence, the DHS Office of General Counsel has recently determined that the U.S. Constitution, the Immigration and Nationality Act, and the immigration regulations do not prohibit relying on administrative warrants for this purpose, the memo reads. The memo says agents may arrest and detain aliens in their places of residence who are subject to final orders of removal issued by immigration judges, the Board of Immigration Appeals, or U.S. district or magistrate judges. The memo says under general guidelines that officers and agents using a method called Form I-205 must knock and announce, and that in announcing, officers and agents must state their identity and purpose. It says that officers and agents must give the people the people inside time to comply with the order. It also says that they generally should not enter a residence before 6 a.m. or after 10 p.m., and that they should only use a necessary and reasonable amount of force to enter a home. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement that immigrants in the country illegally who are served administrative warrants or I-205s, which are removal or deportation warrants, have had full due process and a final order of removal from an immigration judge. They're like, we did everything. Don't worry about it. Don't think about this too much. Don't think about it too much. Sorry. The officers issuing administrative warrants also have found probable cause, McLaughlin says. For decades, the Supreme Court and Congress have recognized the propriety of administrative warrants in cases of immigration enforcement. The group Whistleblower Aid, which is representing the whistleblowers who shared the memo with Congress, said this policy flies in the face of longstanding federal law enforcement training materials and policies, all rooted in constitutional assessments. In other words, the Form I-205 does not authorize ICE agents to enter a home, the group said in a statement. Training new recruits, many of whom have zero prior law enforcement training or experience, to seemingly disregard the Fourth Amendment should be a grave concern to everyone. I mean, sure, we could talk about the lack of training here. That always gets bandied about here as some kind of a fucking fence. These people can be fucking expert in the law. Some of these motherfuckers are actually police. They know enough fucking law. They are choosing to ignore it. They are choosing to not care. They signed up to get the fucking paycheck and do the goddamn job. They know what they're fucking doing and not doing here. You know what I mean? And sure, yeah, some of them are just young, dumb, and ready to fuck with some brown people. But regardless, they are going to do it. They don't care about the moralities here. They've chosen what they are going to do and how they feel about it. So, I mean, by all means, I'm glad they are laying it out in, like, very plain English so that you can understand what the fuck is up, like, by all means. But, like, don't give them the fucking training. I always fucking hate that shit. You know, it is a tale as old as time. It is a fucking strong motif that is used by law enforcement. Whether or not, like, oh, we need to retrain our police, we need to retrain these ICE agents, whatever. No, it's just fucking fucked. Like, once again, we're talking systematic issues at its core. These motherfuckers are doing this shit to oppress you, the person. And in this situation, we are talking about, you know, people who are quote unquote here illegally, but essentially this is always something that we are going to use on people in America, your own people, your own citizens. That is what you will be doing now, is what we will be doing later. That the tale is old as fucking time. Anyway, I know I'm in the weeds over this shit. But let's see here. Blumenthal said in a statement that the memo was allegedly not widely distributed, despite being labeled all hands. A copy of the memo shared with Congress is addressed to all ICE personnel. Instead, the disclosure claims that the memo was rolled out in a secretive manner, in which some agents were verbally briefed while others were allowed to view it but not keep a copy, Blumenthal said. It was reportedly clear that anyone who openly spoke out against this new directive would be fired. So once again, if you know better and you actually speak up, get the fuck out, dude. You're obviously you're not on track here with what the mission is. Like, so once again, let's just not talk about lack of fucking training. It's not that. This Greg Bovino fucker or all these people in charge, and these people don't care about that. They want an outcome. These motherfuckers get paid by the arrest, by the way. They are trying to collect heads. These are body snatchers. Plain and simple. The officials were then to verbally brief the plan, the group said. Supervisors showed it to some employees, including the whistleblowers, and then directed them to read it and return it, according to the group. I think another fucked up thing about this is it makes a fucked up game of telephone, right? With very important information on how you're supposed to conduct yourself in these operations. So it can eventually get as loose as like, oh yeah, just do da-da-da-da, and that'll be fine. And it's like, no, you're not fine in that. But once again, if your heart's in the right place here and you're working for ICE, they kind of are fine with you doing that. You know what I mean? Hey, it helps the surge, brother. The memo is dated less than 4 months into the second term of President Donald Trump, who campaigned on mass deportations. What else did I really want to pull from here? Yeah, I think that's about everything. But yeah, no, obviously I was really worked up about this, as are a lot of fucking people. To say we've gone through literally half of the legal process it takes to actually form a warrant that allows you to be and enter someone's home, and they're like, we only have to do half of it. And you see some of the shit that is taking place here in terms of either they come into people's homes and these people are actually like quote unquote certified U.S. citizens, red, white, blue, brother. I did the whole fucking thing legally, brother. And it's like, oh, we're still gonna bring you out of your house in your fucking underwear. We're not gonna give a fuck, and we're gonna run you through your whole shit. We're gonna scoop you up in the middle of the fucking day, drop you 7 miles from where we fucking left you when we realized, oh, we did fuck up. You actually did have your papers on you. We didn't even fucking look. We didn't even fucking care. We just wanted to get you for face recognition. And that, like, it's wild, dude. So many fucking stories. And there's going to be so many stories that I'm going to miss, dude. And also some that I will just straight up say, it's just, they're almost too hard to fucking cover, man. Like how we literally have some of these fucking dudes who are just certified criminals, just of the worst variety, who are doing terrible shit to fellow human beings and allowed to get away with it. And it's fine. They're getting a paycheck to fucking do it, dude. And we're just hiring more and more fucking scoundrels and criminals like that. It's insane. Oh, man. Just to try these legal fucking, like, just quasi nightmares on people in these quote unquote lived out towns. And then it's like, okay, now we have a trial case. We know what we can do. We know what we can't do. We know what we can get away with. All right. We can now make this even more streamlined down the road. Like, nothing is stopping these people. This is not about permission. It is just about using the power. And you see if the Supreme Court is going to stop you, and then you kind of work around whatever they say is stopping you. So yeah, man, shit feels grim. Shit feels fucking rough, because this shit can just roll into a town near you. It don't fucking matter whether we're talking a Democratic-led town or not. It don't fucking matter, man. And also don't think you're safe just because it's like, well, this is only about people who are here legally. It's not about the normal U.S. citizens. Don't fucking buy that shit. That helps you sleep at night, man. But you know that this is just the beginning. And even as we speak, they're doing a thing of like, this motherfucker's brown enough to be Somali. This motherfucker's, spoke some Spanish. It's close enough. Let's fucking harass him and see what we can do. Let's see if we can let's lock this motherfucker up. Because once again, we get paid for the head. I don't know. I know I'm just really getting worked up here. And we got one more story that I wanted to get into before we close out. But I can't stress it enough, man. Fuck ICE, dude. If you support this fucking shit, you're a dumbass. You're a fucking stupid piece of shit. And yes, I know it's not a fucking new thing. This is a thing that has been happening in through so many administrations. We're talking left, we're talking right here, okay? We're talking Democrat, we're talking Republican, okay? It's fucking fucked, period. If you think this is how our immigration policy should work, and how we should be policing ourselves and operating with our own borders, you're crazy. You are not thinking in a humane way to me. I'm sorry. You and I are just never going to fucking see eye to eye on that. Just so you know. Oh, it's Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to our last story. It's still ice related. It's a bit lighter, you know. It's also an update once again from 2022. It's heist related, so there's at least that silver lining. But this is crazy, man. This is a tale to me. I don't know. Anyway, let me take my last break and we'll go ahead and close it out. All right. Once again, from The Guardian. Prosecutors stunned as ICE lets suspect in $100 million. Okay, so this has just got to be a normal dollar since we're going back and forth here. So $100 million jewelry heist leave U.S. Sorry about that. Just having a full reflection correction moment. Federal immigration authorities allowed a suspect in a $100 million jewelry heist believed to be the largest in U.S. history to deport himself to South America in December, a move that stunned and upset prosecutors who were planning to try the case and send him to prison. Jessen Nellen Priscilla Flores was one of 7 people charged last year with stalking an armored truck to a rural freeway rest stop north of Los Angeles and stealing millions worth of diamonds, emeralds, gold, rubies, and designer watches in 2022. Now, this is one of those where I had the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like pointing like, oh, I remember. I was like, oh shit, we covered this. So this is crazy to like get this update, but through the lens of like ICE being like, hey man, we got another number deported. We got another one booted. And that's all we give a fuck about. And you just have prosecutors like going, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, we have a slam dunk case here. We'd like to get justice here. Could you let us? And they're like, he's already gone. we let him go. It's so wild. But I do want to read more of this. Flores faced up to 15 years in federal prison if convicted on charges of conspiracy to commit theft from interstate and foreign shipment and theft from interstate and foreign shipment. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deported Flores in late December after he requested voluntary departure, prosecutors said in court filings. ICE did not immediately respond to an email seeking comment. Flores' attorney, John D. Motion to dismiss the indictment against his client, asking for the charges to be permanently dropped and the case closed. Federal prosecutors opposed the motion and say they still hope to bring Flores to trial, asking for charges to be dropped without prejudice to keep the door open for criminal prosecution in the future. Okay, I do get that. That kind of makes sense to me. Despite Flores being a lawful permanent resident and released on bail, he was taken into ICE custody in September, according to court filings from his defense attorneys. Federal prosecutors say they were unaware Flores had an immigration detainer. This was a violation of his criminal prosecution rights and warrants his case be getting dismissed, Robertson said in his motion. Now, this is, I know I'm referencing kind of something, and longtime listeners have to keep up with me here, I guess. But Judge Hagan, right? Once again, it is these kind of things that I'm like, look, I know that you could say that was her being way too libbed up and like she did a thing that was wrong, but like you can understand the logic line of like, hey, I want justice to be served in the case that you are here for, right? I want that. That is my sole purpose. That is my job. It is crazy that I'm being overlapped and then, prioritized under ICE, who is essentially going to railroad my whole fucking case here. I'm saying this as like from the POV as a prosecutor. It's so crazy that this is what it is now. That this supersedes the other. Justice, law, all that fucking shit really does not matter. It is about deportations. It is about making those deportations happen, getting that number up, 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 and up, and up as high as you can get it, so that Donald Trump can hop on a podium and say he did that shit. He made America great again, and people will clap and joy cry. I don't know, man. It's so bizarre to me. This is biting your hand type shit. Like I don't get it. It's so frustrating. This is America. Let's see. Flores opted for deportation to Chile during a December 16th immigration hearing, according to court officials or court documents. The judge denied his voluntary departure application, but issued a final order of removal, and he was sent to Ecuador. I'm actually glad we're reading this in the order we're saying it, because it's almost like they just applied that logic here. At least that's kind of what I'm gathering, right? We're like, okay, well, this is fine. And like, we have all the ingredients to get you out of here now. So time to go. And he left. And I'm thinking, like, for him, this is the escape button. Like, yeah, it sucks. Like, you know, show's over. Your time in America's over. But you did the caper. Like, I don't know how much you got out of it, if you did get your cut, if that all got resolved or not, whatever. But, like, you are getting out of the situation. You're going to Chile. You're not. I don't think they're going to try to boomerang you back. That's going to be under a new administration, you would think, right? If that's ever going to happen. So there you go. I don't know. It's a weird end to the story. I guess we will go ahead and just read my highlighted portion. The infamous jewelry heist unfolded in July of 2022 after the suspect scouted the Brinks truck leaving an international jewelry show near San Francisco with dozens of bags of jewels, according to the indictment. While the victims reported more than $100 million in losses, Brinks said the stolen items were worth less than $10 million. A lawsuit filed by the Brinks Security Company said one of the drivers was asleep inside the big rig and the other was getting food inside the rest stop when the thieves broke in. So, you know, pretty good caper. Back then I wasn't rating capers. I guess now that we're kind of doing a bit of a recap, this feels fair. I got to give this a lower one. I mean, yes, it was pretty successful. And it has a certain kind of factor of just like you scouted it out. You literally found the best sweet spot. I think I can't give it a D, even though people were apprehended and all that shit. And you can say technically lower stakes in terms of the payout, but this was a good one. This was good. I'll quote unquote give them their flowers for the operation, the heist. But once again, not advocating. But yeah, man, what a twist. What a twist. Take me back to July of 2022. And I would love to sit down with myself and say, hey, man, it's going to be crazy how part of the story kind of unfurls, right? ICE, we haven't talked about that. You're not really hip. You should be, but you're going to find out. They're going to get involved, right? It's going to be weird. Get ready for that. I would never see it coming. I just wouldn't. So don't you like how life writes itself out? I do. Sometimes. Actually, I don't. It's pretty grim and miserable and harrowing sometimes. And it kind of makes you feel like you're mentally just kind of on a razor wire, walking every day, just hoping you don't fall off and into the abyss. Anyway, I don't know. No, this has been the episode. That's it. I know. A bit all over the place, a little angry, a little upset, but so it goes. I still say this was a good day. It was a good day to yap. Anyway. Let's see, we got a shill. I don't have a cramp this time. So yes, if you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/ZayaNews. Become a newsie today. I am doing newsie roll call, top of the month. That's obviously still a thing. We're going to keep that rolling on. Plug, a project, thing like that. If you'd like, that's an option. You also get access to some older episodes. You get access to my little notes thing I add to every once in a while. It's not really a thing. Really, it's a tip jar. I'll level with you. It's just really that. If you'd like to just say, hey, I like what you're doing, keep it up, that's appreciated. Thanks so much. If you would like to, would you kindly? But no, free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on any of the listening platforms. I found out today that they're doing a Netflix launch of podcasters and shit. I'm like, man, that must be nice. That sounds, I hate it. That sounds kind of cool. I'm such a loser. Anyway, I'm not on Netflix, but whatever. We can dream. Let's see. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. 5 stars on Spotify, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, always appreciated. But you don't have to do any of that. I really just appreciate you letting me work it out. Let me talk about my shit, my feelings on life and the happenings. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's the best part for me, is knowing that there's someone on the other end, you know, who's just either falling asleep to this, driving around to this, you know, hell, working, whatever, man. Hell yeah, dude. It's good to be rocking with you in the quote unquote free world. And you know that. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.